Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Land Stories Live. I am your host, Dave Deniston of Generation Family Properties, LLC, where our goal is to help hundreds of people just like you own land. Most of all, we would love to tell your land story. Well, I have to confess, I am recording this after we had recorded the actual podcast. I ended up not hitting the record button until a few minutes into the conversation. My guest in this podcast and live show that actually went live on Facebook, recording this later, is I've been featuring lately a couple of special guests on the show that sell land in different areas than I normally do. Our guest today that you are going to see is a man that I have been watching from afar in his business, where he constantly tries new things. I admire him not only for the land he is selling, but also for just the honesty and just being real and raw, and his business acumen for being a young man in this business. So I'm excited for him to discuss his journey, to discuss land in an area that we have never owned before, Apache County, Arizona. Please help me welcome Clint Turner of Away Land Co. I think with helping people, there's really two different ways we help people, right? One is on the buy side. There are people that have been really hurting for money, in this pandemic. And so we come and we buy properties from folks. In a lot of cases, it's people that have been holding it for 30 or 40 years, and they've never intended to use it, but then they said, life changed and I'm not going to go to the retire. So we can help people that way. And then on the other hand, now we turn it around and sell it to someone that really does want to use it, right? And they're excited, and whether it's owner financing or cash. I'd love to hear you speak more about that in terms of how are we helping people with what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. We have, and again, we've been very blessed in our business. We've worked hard, of course, but we've been blessed to have a lot of opportunities to help people. And as you expand, most people don't know, especially on when I buy properties, when somebody sells to us, right? A lot of people just aren't, they're just not familiar with that as an option, right? And so we create win-win situations. Like you said, we try and help people who need money on the other side exit an asset that is not liquid whatsoever. Land is one of the most illiquid assets. It's very hard to move and get cash out of.
Yes.
And so that is a service that most people don't know. And then I like to give the example sometimes, like say you're driving to go to a skiing trip, or maybe you're just going a couple hours outside of town. You look around and at some point you say, who in the world owns all this? Like
Yes.
who owns all this land? And the truth is there's an owner attached to just about every piece out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's so many people who have this in their portfolio, have this as something they own, an asset, and life changes and comes up, present situations where you have this asset that, has a tangible value, but it's very hard to get money out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've seen situations all across the board, whether we're helping people or helping people get money for bail. It's not the best example to start with, but that's one of the most notable ones that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Or helping people with medical bills, or helping people who are just having a tough time in life in general. And, being able to do that, provide the service we do of quick research, quick closing, quick cash, in your hands. At some point, it can be a lifeline for people, and we've heard time and time and time again where just the pour out of thanks, you know what I mean, for being able to do that. And then on the other side, of course, we do you, me, and everybody else that sells kind of in this investor world, we make it so much easier than the traditional go to a realtor, go to the bank, do all that nonsense. It is, we're buying a house right now here in Austin, and it's a nightmare. I hate it. It just makes me so thankful for the land business, because we help people who really want land, whatever the use case may be. There's a million and one of them, but We help people get into the right properties at the right prices. Our goal is always, I want to be on the very bottom of what the market is, right? The very bottom or under it. So if you're going out to buy a property and you see it's $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 an acre, I want to be 10 or 20% below that at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the classic example that we can always give is banks don't lend against most properties that we sell, especially if you're not developing in any sort of timeline. And so, we offer win-wins. It's the easiest way to put it. And yeah, we carry a lot of owner financing. So that's kind of the last key to the puzzle, where, we'll sell to people for 10 or 20% of the purchase price when a bank won't lend against it, which I think is just really, really, I think it's a cool opportunity we have to serve the market like that.
Absolutely. Well, and then I think one of the coolest things about this business is people know they're not dealing with some huge institution, right? I mean, ultimately, you and I are the owners of our own companies. And so if someone has a situation where, gosh, I lost my job, can I delay on the payment for a month? And we've developed this relationship with them over a year or two, we say, no problem, right? We as the owners have control over dealing with these other individuals that life happens, and we go through life, and we understand that, so it's
And that's really, that's so important. And I think for anybody that's listening to this, that's considering buying or even owns property, we have, I think we carry over 150 loans at this point. And when the pandemic hit, we had to sit down and say, what are we going to do about this? Right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
there's no way that everybody that, we loan money to is going to, not, simply put, there's no reason there's definitely going to be people asking for help. Right? And I mean, if you were here in the US during this, it was slow. The pandemic hit. Months and months later, there was some sort of economic recovery that came. To be honest, I never saw any of that money, but anyhow, that's here nor there. But we made the choice to, instead of just hope for the best and hope they can make their payments, and if not, we'll foreclose like normal or close down. We intentionally reached out to everybody that we hold a payment for, or that holds a payment with us, and we said, hey, we understand what's going on. If you think that you're going to be in trouble here, let's make sure that we can help you out. You know what I mean? And so we were able to offer 3 to 6 months of reduced or very low amount payments just to help people through. And for some people, it was the difference in owning their property or
yeah,
not, right?
yeah, totally.
And it's during a time when I think most people would love to have a property to own, right? Somewhere you can go. And so, that's just so relevant. And I'm glad you brought that up. That's great.
Well, I would love to hear from you. So that was a big change, in the pandemic and helping out people and running the business. Has the pandemic changed anything else for you, just in terms of running this business and how you think about life?
Hmm. That's a great question. And pretty simply put, people run to commodities in a time like this a lot, right? So, we saw things like gold and silver go up during the pandemic. Some of these new currencies like cryptocurrencies have been doing really well. Um, but one of those commodities that people don't talk about a lot is land, right?
Yeah.
So it was a little touch and go for a bit there when everything really kind of stopped, but I feel like it was an avalanche of kind of like a light switch on and off. As soon as people kind of got their feet back under them, there was just a massive amount of people that said, this is enough of the city for me. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
so we were holding, I think in March, maybe 50 or 60 properties in our inventory. And through a 2 or 3 month span, we sold everything we were buying,
Crazy.
everything we were trying to buy, everything that was even closing. And so there was a massive demand there. And that came with a lot of, on the boring kind of notes, yeah, there was more operational capacity we had to hire. And, even with that, it's great to think that, hey, I was able to provide more people with jobs during this pandemic. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
Because of
totally.
our ability to sell more properties. And so it's been crazy. I mean, just the demand, and I don't think we see that forever, honestly. And so I don't know what that really looks like at a steady state, but it's definitely picked up. And so on the amount of work we're doing to bring one of these properties to market, it's definitely going up, right? We're doing more efforts on to find some of these deals. Things are moving significantly slower when we're trying to get deals closed, whether it's get things notarized or go to the county, whatever the case may be. There's a million and one things we got to do. So we were very lucky, and I would guess that you had a similar experience, to be on the winning side of and I hate to say it like that, but it's just, we held a product that people wanted during this time. And that's kind of the great thing about land, though. You know what I mean? Like, whether you're an investor like myself who uses this to, live life and provide income for his family and, do the things that we have to do, eat dinner at night, or you're somebody that's just wants to own property, for whether your family owned property, you love owning property, whatever it is, this has been a very unique time to be able to sell and to be able to help people. And so, and sorry, where I was going with that is, land is, I feel like in my gut, is always going to be one of those things that whenever there's times of uncertainty, people are interested in. You know what I mean? It's a safe haven. It's a place to go. It's something that doesn't move, right? Unless there's a sinkhole
Yes.
or an earthquake. And so it's very stable and it provides that. And so, you know, it's great on both ends, whether you're looking to invest in it, whether you're looking to hold it, whether you want peace of mind. So it's been a very unique time, being able to meet a lot of new people, sell a lot of unique properties. And I have no idea what it will look like in the future.
Yeah, right. Well, none of us do. None of us do, right? You
Yeah,
just keep on marching forward and believe for the best and try and help people. And I think
absolutely.
eventually, that all pays back, right? You build your reputation, and part of the reason we do a podcast like this is to educate people and talk about the process.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to know, Clint, as I look back on my land career, we started in Costilla County, Colorado, as many people did, and I think you may have too, because I've seen your website having a few there. And then we moved into Klamath County, Oregon, and then we moved into more counties in Colorado, and now we've gone into New Mexico and Arizona and all kinds of places. So I'd love to know about just kind of your journey. Where did you start buying and selling land, and where are you doing now? What has your journey been like as you've moved along the way?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, so Costilla County was the first place I purchased and sold land. A very hallmark moment in every land investor's journey, I think. It's funny, whenever I started, again, we've worked very hard, but we have, a guy like Tony Robbins, think about what you will. He says something to the effect of, it's like, 50% skill, 50% luck in business, or a third, a third, a third.
Mm.
And we, just kind of entered at the right time when we came across some people who had large portfolios of properties in that Southern Colorado area. And so that was my first real big, opportunity to buy and sell land, I'd say at volume. I was 6 months, maybe a year into kind of trying this thing out. Again, I was trying 5 other businesses at the time. I hadn't really like settled on one. And these were some of the deals that really kind of opened it up for me. But yeah, we bought back in 2018 a large portfolio of nearly 100 properties in Southern Colorado.
Wow.
So we were doing land in Costilla, we were doing land in Huerfano, land in Las Animas, Pueblo. I mean, we were just kind of all around the map.
Mm.
And we actually bought that from another land investor. Going back to what I said earlier, land isn't very liquid, so you have to be very diligent with your finances. You have to be very diligent with your strategy in order to actually make it work. And again, life changes, and this person had, like I said, a little over 100 properties they'd either defaulted on or just owned for a long time. Their family owned some of them and developed them, and they needed to go liquid really quickly. And, things worked out. I was kind of lucky in a sense, but we were able to get the deal closed with them. And so we did a lot of business in Southern Colorado that year.
Mm.
So I learned most of the counties, most of the areas. And then past that, we actually had another we've done that twice. We had one person like that, and then another person who again had a huge portfolio of land. Not necessarily the same situation of needing to go liquid really quickly, but we were able to come to an agreement to more or less partner with them to help liquidate their portfolio. And so, they still give us about 50 properties a year in Southern
Wow.
Colorado. And that's a really unique deal what we put together, which we really don't do much other than just sell them and show them and take photos and market them, and yeah, and we're cut in on the asset there. So so that's been so we've lucked into a bunch of big deals in Colorado basically. But the great thing about that is it took hundreds of hours of research and learning and calling, and
Yes.
I
Yes.
learned just about every county where you buy and where you where you trade land in Colorado. We've dealt with the office at this point,
Mm.
so we still do a lot of business there. Um, as you can imagine, doing a few hundred deals like that, we had to build out a significant amount of, you know, team
Yes.
operations. We had to
Yeah.
listings, taking in calls, helping people get to closing, the million things that go on between saying I want to buy and actually getting to the end, or even just buying it and getting to the end, right? So we built a big team, and at that point, those deals don't last forever. You know what I mean? And so we kind of quickly had to pivot and figure out, how do we keep this volume up so that we can keep serving all the people that we serve? And so we've turned into a few different avenues, but man, we're all over the place now. We went from Southern Colorado to West Texas.
Mm.
Now we're doing some stuff in Arizona, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. We've done a few deals in Oregon. We've done some in Utah, done some in Florida. And I think the thing to highlight here is there's land everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yes.
There's
Yes.
land all over the place. And the truth is, whether you're an investor, you're looking to use this as an asset or a vehicle for yourself, whether you're looking to purchase land and hold it, whether you're looking to buy it as just a personal investment, something to have as far as security and safety and all those kind of things, there's opportunities abound, because I couldn't raise enough money to buy the amount of land that's
Mm.
available to buy. it'd be
No.
it'd be impossible, right? And so we really just track, and my whole goal is just to offer people what they want at the end of the day. And for us, it's pretty simple it when it comes down to the specifics. There's tax records and things that show where people are buying land. And so we simply go and find that. We find what people want, we find what people are buying, and we just reverse engineer the process and see, you know can we go acquire that kind of property here, and can we create the situations we've been talking about? So we're in pretty consistently now. We're in 6 states. We're in, I don't even know how many counties, a bunch of them. But yeah, that's kind of where we are now. And again, as the business grows and as we keep learning and getting better, we're looking to do bigger projects. We have a couple minor developments and subdivides we're working on right now, and kind of going to be working on throughout the next year. The opportunity is endless here. And so, if you want to get land crazy and land lost, you can definitely do it. I spend my day looking at maps and looking at
Yes.
records stuff all day. But yeah, I mean, that's where we are now. And, the business is just growing. It's just continuing to go.
That's great. Well, and I'd love to know, if you were a buyer, let's say you wanted to have a recreational property with your taste. Everyone has different tastes and different reasons. Where would you go?
So I'm torn here. Okay. Um, my heart kind of is in Southern Colorado. I've been there a few times to visit, or probably more than most people have that buy and sell land. Gone and visited some properties. I really love some of the areas out there. Um, as far as beauty, you can't really get better than the mountains,
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's another side of me that says, if I'm going to buy a recreational property, I want I want it to be the 180-degree opposite of what's in the city. You know what I mean? Of where I live now.
Mhm.
I want nobody around. I want no restrictions. I want no one to bother me. I don't want an HOA to answer to. I don't want any of that. I want the stark opposite of where I am now. And so there's only so many freedom states that are left, I think. One of my sales team members told me this the other day. She said, we need to buy more land in freedom states. I'm like, what is that? She's like, well, it's the only places that there's non-restricted land. I think it's
Mm.
Texas, Oklahoma, Wyoming, and maybe one more. So Texas is great. You can't beat that. We're starting to do a lot of business in Texas, in West Texas, and even in a little more, a little less rural areas. We do a lot of rural business, but we're starting to get into stuff that's a little closer to some of the major markets, right? Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, Houston. And so Texas, and I live in Texas, so my heart's here, right?
Yeah, right. Totally.
So I'd say I'm 50-50. One place that people don't really know about is out in West Texas, close to Big Bend. There's some properties I would say be careful of out there, but there are also some properties that are just stinking gorgeous.
Mm.
Out in West Texas, it's almost looks like Colorado in some part. It's like a Colorado Arizona mixture. You have
Sure, sure.
mountains, you have canyons, you have green, you have rock, and you can buy really affordable properties out there as well.
Mm.
So, I would lean towards Texas because I'm here, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a couple properties I didn't sell that are just sitting there in Colorado.
Well, it's always one of those things like, oh gosh, what should I keep for my family, right?
Right?
And it's
Absolutely.
it's it becomes hard sometimes. You fall in love with properties. I actually just drove up. We have a new property first property we bought here in Minnesota. So I
Oh,
drove a couple of hours to go check it out, do the pictures myself, and it was like, man, I love this area. Do I want
right.
to really sell this property? I don't know. So we put it on the market. I figured, hey, I can always buy more, and if I find the perfect property, then we'll keep it. But let's move on. We'll move on with the show here. I'm gonna share my screen, and we're gonna talk about this property that you have
Yes.
here in Apache County, Arizona. Now, I have personally never owned property out here, and was poking around. So I'd love to know from you. Just walk us through this property, Clint. I have a Google map pulled up here of where the
Sure.
property is at. We got the video, your description. You tell me where do you want to start with about this particular property?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you how we bought this property. I've actually never sought out property in Apache County, Arizona. Again, it was one of those coincidental situations where we were buying land from somebody in a different part of Arizona, southeastern Arizona. And they said, "Hey, we got a couple extra properties that my family had, my grandpa, my uncle. There was about six different people that were in the chain of title that we had to get quick claim deeds from to bring this to market. But yeah, this property is in Apache County. It's about, I think, if I remember this one correctly, it is about 20 something miles from the closest small town.
I got it.
Um,
I got it
this
right here.
is, yeah, this is a pretty, if you're looking for remote, this is the kind of property you want. This one, let's see, what do you want to know exactly? I can tell you all the things about it.
Well, looks like you got road access here. It
Mhm.
sits on the corner. Here the map link was, I think, for the northwestern corner of it, if I remember right.
Yeah,
But I think it looks something like that if you draw out a square. So lots of cool. You got bushes and some terrain here. So gosh, what a great place to be on to do ATVing is kind of what I think about.
great place. Our photographer actually talked to that person that lives on the 40 acres next door to it when they went out there, just to kind of get an idea and lay of the land. And they said in in some of the rainy months, and even kind of through the beginning and end of summer, a lot of times these beds kind of flow, and so you get moving water on the property part of the year, which is great.
Mhm.
And then this is a very remote location here, and so this is going to be, the ideal off-grid or ideal very recreational type property. One thing I would say out here is that when it comes to kind of doing off-grid type alternative living, this is one of the least restricted areas in Arizona to do it, as
Mm.
well as great opportunity for sunshine, right? Because you're in Arizona,
Mhm.
and pretty reasonable water depths on this one too. So the neighbor has a well drilled, and I think that theirs as well as others in the area hit the water table around 200 to 300 feet out there.
Not bad for
Um,
Arizona. I mean, you could be
Not terrible for Arizona. Some of them can be 600,000 feet, and so there's all sorts of intricacies that come with that. But it's a great property. It's a great price, and that's really what people are looking for with these kind of deals normally.
well in 40 acres. I mean, that is not
Yeah.
a small lot. I think
Mm-mm.
I think that's what, like 32 football fields or something like that. I can't remember the exact measurements, but
Something
that's,
like that.
I know
And
it's not a
you know,
1-for-1, but just think about like 30 football fields
hmm
side
huge.
by side by side by side by side by side. That's a lot of land.
It's a lot of area, and there's not many places you can find that much land at $500 an acre. You know what I mean? And so I have had I've had so many different people buy these kinds of properties from us, and this is kind of your it's great for recreation. It's great if you want to put a small to medium size kind of cabin sleeper kind of situation where you can go and get away from it all. And what people really love about these is that very low maintenance. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
this stuff is so easy to maintain. You could clear this if you wanted. You could clear some of the bush and some of the pinyon out if you wanted, but at some point, this is what people like in Arizona. You know what I mean? This is the Arizona desert for you.
It is. Although
Uh,
I would like to point out just the temperature, because I was doing
yeah,
some due diligence ahead of time, and I like using Bing for this reason. If you just type in
that's
average
cool.
temperature wherever, you get these really cool charts where
Hmm.
you can see rain and snow and temperature. And gosh, think about someone living in Phoenix, right? In July, it's like
Yeah,
120 degrees or 115 degrees. Here, the high is 90. I mean, what a great place to cool down.
one of our sales associates, our manager actually, she lives in southeastern Arizona. And so, between March and October, if I ask her how her day's going, she says she's sweating, but it's going great, right? But it's funny once you go farther north in the state, you're getting closer to a lot more mountainous land. You're getting a little farther from the equator, and so yeah, some people miss that, but yeah, this is a great area.
Well, what the other thing that I think a lot of us don't realize, here's St. John's, your property is somewhere over here.
Mhm.
Just an hour away, there's a ski resort.
Yeah,
Sunrise Park Resort is right here. So if you love to ski, it's just an hour away from the property, and you do get snow in Arizona, which a lot of us wouldn't think of. I mean, I think desert, right? I think Arizona. I think of out over here. This whole area. I grew up in Southern California, so I think of hot 115-degree heat over the
Mhm.
summer. You're burning up, but this whole eastern side is just beautiful.
Yeah, and there's a lot of small developments out here as well, kind of north of all of what you see as green here. That's a lot of state park, mountain park type land. There is a ton of land. Ours again, like you said, is just outside of St. John's there. But as you go southern there, there's a ton of this kind of property for sale. And people sometimes don't understand that that's available. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I mean that you can actually buy land this close. I know so many, for lack of better words, hippies. I'm a little bit of one myself, and and it's nice to be that close to nature, and it's nice to not have to go pay $70 a night or whatever it is to stay at a KOA resort, kind of like a campground parking type thing. You can own your own property, let it appreciate over time. And whenever you want to do that camping trip, you want to do that month off in the summer, right? Kind of away from sounds and smells and everything of the city. You can do it, and you can do it very affordably.
Absolutely. Well, then look at the property taxes you have on here listed.
Hmm.
$85 and
I
24
know.
cents a year for 40 acres,
Yeah.
under $100 a year. Even if it was $100, I mean that's nothing. You're
That's
talking less than $10 a month. You know, that's crazy. Um,
cost is just about unconsequential.
Pretty much, right? I do have another article here that people might want to check out. We'll put this in the show notes on the podcast and on our website once we have it. Just some local attractions. There's a lake out there, Lyman Lake, Pioneer Days, the fair, the Petrified National Forest, pretty cool. The Painted Desert. Anything you want to draw out here, Clint? As I'm just kind of scrolling through these different things.
Yeah, there's a lot to do in Arizona. I'd be lying if I said I've spent a ton of personal time in the area. But and I don't know, Dave, you grew up in Southern California, you tell me. I live in Texas. One of the hardest things for me to understand whenever I started in this business is why people were buying land in Arizona. It's very different to what I'm used to, right? And the truth is, it's just there's a lot of benefits to owning property like this out there. Um, but you tell me, what's the draw? What's the climate? Why do people want to be in the heat, in the sun like that?
Well, I went from Southern California and moved to Seattle for my undergrad.
Okay.
And people in Seattle, you have probably 180 to 200 days of cloudiness a year. I think there was one time when I was in college where we had 92 straight days without any sunshine. And and I think for a lot of people as they retire, the colder climates, up here in Minnesota, I'm in another place like that where, December through February, it's just cold and miserable for a lot of folks that want to be outside. And Arizona allows you the opportunity to be outside. Think about this particular place we're talking about in St. John's, January, you get 50-degree days in Minnesota when it's negative 20.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I
that's terrible.
I think that's the attractiveness for a lot of us. I mean, think about
Absolutely.
Canadians, right? I mean, it's like Minnesota. They're super cold, and
Hmm.
getting to a warmer spot is an attractiveness. Growing up in Southern California, it wouldn't make sense to me, but now having lived where I've lived, it definitely makes sense. And you hear
Right.
people talk about it all the time. Go to Florida, go to Arizona for the winter for a month or a couple of weeks just to warm up again
Hmm.
and
I guess
enjoy
I
it.
forget about that sometimes being in Texas because it can get uh, hot.
Totally. Totally. Let's
You know,
see.
one other thing in Arizona that I think people, again, and when you're like myself, who isn't familiar with that climate, you are somewhat because you grew up in the area, but or in a similar climate, but people don't realize that, you may think of Arizona, you may think desert.
Yes.
Well, there is some incredible hiking in Arizona, some of the best parks for hiking out there. There's incredible rock formations. As you can see here, there is green. It's not just sandy and in cactus. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
people, do miss that, and I'm really glad you brought that up. I'm gonna actually tell my team to emphasize that a little more. But that's something that you don't really expect sometimes in Arizona is the beauty, some of the outdoor kind of recreation type things. You think, Grand Canyon and you think desert.
And
And
yeah, for sure.
even on the North Rim of the Grand Canyon, there's some incredible hiking. So, I'm an outdoors guy. Whenever I take a couple weeks off, I like to be off. I like to hike. I like to be disconnected. And I think this is a really, really great area for that.
I love it. Well, as we wrap up this podcast, we're getting a little past the time, having a great conversation. If people want to check out this property, maybe they want to buy it. Give us a little bit of the details on the the cash and the financing price, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not going to update it on the site, but if anybody does see this, I'll do a little special for you guys. We'll knock 20% off of the price that you see
Wow,
there.
20.
So yeah, so we'll take 20% off of the cash price, and we can knock 50% off of the down payment as well, if anybody's interested in that. So again, we do our best to create win-win a lot of the time for folks. And we in some properties we can, some we can't, but this is one where we have room to be able to do those kind of things. And so I do always like to run specials for listeners or people who are interested in that. So if you guys are interested, feel free. You can reach out to us. You can contact us through our website. We also have a Facebook group. This is a private group. We keep it free of investors and people who are promoting themselves. This is really more of a group where if you're looking to learn more about land, if you're looking to learn how this process works, and of course, great deals, we offer those inside of our group. And so you can get in there. We do some monthly trainings. We actually give away a few properties a year too. So we've done 2 so far this year. We're going to do another one towards the end of the year, beginning kind of like a Christmas, New Year's kind of deal. So yeah, you can reach out to us there. We're happy to help folks out. We have really great in-house financing. We don't require any kind of credit checks or any kind of like I said, the nonsense I'm doing to buy a house right now is out of control. So we keep it pretty simple for you. And other than that, yeah, feel free to check out our website, our Facebook group. That's where you can hook up with us. We try and put all of our deals, I would say 30 to 40% of our properties come through, and I'm sure you're similar in this way, where we may sell them before we list them. You know what I mean? Because we have a lot of people who are interested. There's a lot of demand for these kind of properties. And so, yeah, if you're in our Facebook group or if you're on our email list, you'll always see those things before everybody else does. And we offer these kind of deals all the time.
I love it. I love it. And for those of you that are listening to this on the audio podcast, it might be gone by the time you listen to it, but it is $20,000 cash for this property, or Clint offered 20% off. So that's $16,000. That's $4,000.
We're not updating the website, so you have to let me know you heard me on the podcast.
Yes, perfect. And then this one with the owner financing is $2,200 down and $380 a month. So definitely make sure to mention that. And your website, Clint, is?
Awaylandco.com. Awaylandco.com.
Awaylandco.com. Well, there you go, everybody. Clint, any final thoughts that you want to leave us with as we wrap up the podcast today?
I just want to say, first, thank you for having me. I think that you should be more of a celebrity in this space, more of an inspiration. There are a lot of people that get into what we do, to be honest with you, for personal gain. And that's fine. That's why most people buy real estate, and that's why the tax laws are written the way they are, so that we keep the land moving, we keep the properties moving, right? But at the end of the day, I think people miss sometimes the opportunity to educate and to serve the clients you work with and the people who put their trust in you. And so I was reflecting on that this morning. I'm honored to be here and to be on the show. If you're looking to do business with somebody, make sure it's someone like Dave that actually has your interest in mind. I mean, Dave's got 40-something podcast episodes out now where he's just teaching people and helping people learn more about land. And really, if you get into the other side of this business where we do a lot of, you mentioned earlier, I help people start businesses or grow these kinds of businesses. And one of the things I see people is like, it's very self-focused a lot of the time. And that can result in a number of things down the line. I'll kind of save that maybe for a different episode, but I just want to say thank you. I love what you're doing. I love how you're serving the community, and I'm glad to be a part of it. Thanks, brother.
Well, thank you, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate you being here with us and just chatting away. It was a great conversation. We'll have to do it again down the road. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Dave. Appreciate it.
All right, my friends. So that wraps up another episode of Land Stories Live. If you have any questions about land, want to talk it over, certainly hit up Clint on his website, or certainly reach out to me at genfamproperties.com, or you can call or text me personally, 775-234-2048. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye-bye.